There she is, Miss America.
I want to start by saying welcome to everybody to Rowan University, those of you who are here in the room and also those of you who are joining us virtually tonight. We're so excited to have you all join us here at Rowan University. My name is Joanne Connor. I am the President's Chief of Staff here at Rowan. And again, very excited to have you all here today. For those of you who are joining us virtually, or for those of you who may be new to Rowan University, obviously, if you're here in the room, you know where we are. But for those who are virtual, we have about 225 total participants here tonight. We're so excited that we have that many folks who are interested to hear about this extraordinary project and about the future of the Miss America organization. But for those who are joining virtually, we are located about 25 minutes southeast of Philadelphia in beautiful Glassboro, New Jersey, and we welcome you. So for today's event, our title is called Prepare Great Women for the World, Prepare the World for Great Women, The Road to 100 More. We are celebrating the centennial of the Miss America organization, and we are thrilled here at Rowan University to be a part of that celebration. Rowan is embarking on an exciting project in collaboration with the Miss America organization that speaks to U.S. history, New Jersey history, and of course, women's history. What we're going to do here tonight is have the panelists introduce themselves, then I'm going to go ahead and ask some questions, and then we're going to do a live Q&A with the audience. Because we have about 50 people here in the room and the remainder, 175, who are joining us virtually, we're going to rotate the questions. And so we have somebody who will be monitoring the live chat. For those of you who are joining virtually, please feel free to send in your questions at any point throughout the panel. And we'll go back and forth between a live question here in the room and then one from online. Afterwards, we have artifacts. We have a makeshift museum here in the beautiful Rohr College of Business. And it's really spectacular to see the artifacts that are part of the project that we at Rowan University are digitizing for the Miss America organization. And so for those in the room, please take your time and browse the artifacts, which really take you through the history of this organization and of New Jersey, and again, U.S. history. It's quite fascinating. And for those of you who are virtual, we have examples of the digitization of those artifacts that you'll be able to watch online in a loop afterward. And so please, again, take the time to do that. Before we begin, I want to thank our sponsors, of course, first and foremost, the Miss America organization. We are so thrilled to be partnering with you. Also, of course, the President's Office at Rowan University. The President, Ali Hushman, is a huge supporter of this project and of diversity, and we thank him for his support. The Rowan University Women's Alliance Network is another sponsor of this great event, and we thank them, along with the Rowan University Office of Alumni Engagement and the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, who is leading up the archival project. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and begin. I'm going to ask Shantel if you could please begin with the introductions.
Well, sure. Well, thank you, Joanne, and thank you to our great partner, Rowan University. When we first thought about what to do and what we needed to do going into our 100th anniversary, we said one of the things we wanted to accomplish in that year that we took off and not had a national competition due to the pandemic and the COVID pandemic, we said that one thing that we'd like to tackle was really getting into all those storage units. And the storage units, what I mean is what has been archived, so to speak, in the Miss America beautiful items that you're going to see on display and so much more. We have about 6 storage units full, and I think, Joanne, you've been there yourself. And what it is, it's a full of treasures. Mm-hmm. And we knew that this was an appropriate time to do so. Surprisingly, I found out that nothing had been done as far as an actual archive project or archival process. And so that was one of my goals when I stepped in as interim CEO, is to say, okay, we're going into our 100th anniversary. We also want to make sure it's preserved for hundreds of years more. And that's what women, I mean, look at what the contribution to society has been for the last 100 years. So this isn't just about what everybody thinks this is, the beauty pageant, and that's what most of our, the general public thinks, but we know the ones, the internal audience, those that participate, that know the Miss America program, these are the leaders that shape tomorrow. And so that's why we want to make sure that we have some type of record, and a digital record nonetheless, moving forward into the age of digitization, that we do it. And Rowan was, of course, a perfect fit with your art department and your history and the technology, and then being right there. It was a perfect fit. So thank you to Joanne and Kate. When we got on that first phone call with you and reached out, you were all in and excited, and we were just blessed to have you partner and really see it with an open eyes of a talent that, of course, we don't know the expertise that we need to have when it comes to digitization, and that's where you step in as a university. So thank you, Joanne, on behalf of the Miss America organization. It's not an easy project. We've got a lot of stuff to do. It's a 3-year project we're figuring. So I'm glad we started, and we're getting into it, and we're finding a lot of great things, but we're not done, and it's gonna be a time over the next couple of years to get to continue this process.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Shantel. Next, we're going to hear from Miss New Jersey and Rowan University alumna, Alyssa Sullivan. Alyssa.
Hello, everyone. Well, it is an honor to be back here, not just to be here as Miss New Jersey, but to be back home. And I know when we saw each other today, you welcomed me home. And even though I went here for a couple of years, I still managed to get lost on the way to Business Hall. So I don't know how good of an alumni I truly am. But there was something so special about my time here at Rowan University. Far before I became Miss New Jersey, I credit this university so much with helping me find myself, my path, my direction in life, and the courage to be able to win the job of Miss New Jersey, to realize what it takes, that balance in life, from the journalism department to the wonderful faculty. It's an honor to be here, and I feel lucky that it just so happened that the school that I attended happened to partner with the Miss America organization, and that they understand that connection, that we're preparing not just great women for the world, but the world for great women. So many times in life when you compete in this organization, you spend a lot of time trying to educate people on what the mission of the organization really is. So to hail from a school that is so accepting and really truly appreciates what it is means so very much. So it's an honor to be back here, and I'm so excited to spend the evening with all of you.
Thank you, Alyssa. And finally, we have Kate Turner, a professor of history here at Rowan University. Kate?
Hi, so as you mentioned, I'm a professor of history and American studies, and the conjunction American studies is an interdisciplinary cultural studies major. And so I was, as Shantel mentioned, very excited when I first heard about this idea that Rowan had to the Miss America and Rowan partnership to digitize the collection. So we've been working on this since really in earnest since last spring. We started acquiring materials last spring and digitizing them. Tremendous amount of work from the people in the library on this project, and we're digitizing now and also working on ways to really make this a world-class archive that will be available digitally to scholars around the world, but also to members of the general public who can, have a certain amount of access as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start with our questions. And Shantel, I'm going to begin with you. You've occupied a number of positions in your life, including various elected offices in South Dakota, in the retail business, in healthcare, and the chairperson of Miss America organization. You also served as Miss South Dakota in 1997. So the question is, what did you learn from participating in Miss America, and how did it shape your life?
Well, I think, Joanne, you have gotten to experience the other side of Miss America by judging on the scholarship side of it, and you've attended the events. And I think that you've seen the results that all women that participate, whether you win or not, they walk away with those independent skills that a lot of times are not able to be achieved in maybe just a classroom setting. And that's really what the Miss America organization is all about. It's about moving women forward, both educationally and, of course, with their social impact. Now, what I mean by social impact, for those listeners that may not be aware, it's something that our candidates that are competing for this job, and yes, you've heard me say candidates, that is correct. They're not contestants, they're not pageant girls. These are candidates applying for a job. And I will emphasize that again, this is a full-time job that they're applying for, 365 days a year. And this is what it does, is it prepares you for that world to come, whether it be in your career, your workforce, or something that they're passionate about, a social cause, a platform, something that they believe in and they advocate for. And what these young ladies that are title holders or that are competing in this program, they advocate for this cause, they believe in it, and then they become champions, and then they educate millions of Americans on those issues that are facing the nation. And they're the leaders in the community that are stepping up making a better tomorrow in the United States. And we're very proud of them as candidates.
Thank you so much, Shantel. Alyssa, the next question is for you. As we noted, you are a Rowan University alumna as well as Miss New Jersey 2021. You'll be competing December 16th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we're all going to be rooting for you. So
Thank
we're
you.
so proud of you.
Thank you.
What would you say to people who think that getting an education and participating in a beauty pageant are inconsistent and conflicting?
I think that one of the biggest parts of what I do on the day-to-day as Miss New Jersey is educating people about the fact that you don't have to choose between being educated and intelligent and competing in the Miss America organization. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I was in the grocery store. I was in ShopRite, no hair, no makeup, full, real, authentic Alyssa. And I had a very sweet woman walk up to me who tapped me on the shoulder and recognized me and said, "You're Miss New Jersey, aren't you?" And I just crumbled at first because I was not exactly done up. But I said, "Yes, I am." And she was very excited to meet me. And she said, "You are so attractive." And I thought to myself, that's so sweet of her, knowing that she meant only good intentions and good thoughts. And I said, "Thank you very much." And I thought to myself in my mind that it was one of the most defining moments probably in that moment in the ShopRite in my job and my year as Miss New Jersey, that if I did not further this conversation with her, she wouldn't know that I graduated summa cum laude from Rowan University. She wouldn't know that I'm a reporter at PHL 17 or the work that I do in my community. She would only know that the bare minimum to compete in this program is to be attractive. And so we continued to have a wonderful conversation, and after leaving, I felt like I had really made an impact and changed her thought process. And while she had the best of intentions, that's what it's about. We can't just watch the stereotypes continue and then just be upset that we're not changing it. That's why we're preparing the world for great women, because the world has some catching up to do. So that's a huge part of what all of the women do who are competing for the job of Miss America, to show people not just what we bring to the table, but the way that we are changing the world.
Fantastic. That is a wonderful answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I crown you Miss America 2021 just based on that.
We don't even need to drive to Connecticut.
It's already done. I'm going to ask a follow-up question now. How did a university degree inform your Miss America journey, and how did the Miss America journey inform your higher education experience?
They were very synonymous with each other. It's funny, before I came to Rowan University, I actually spent a year and a half at Rider University studying for a degree in musical theater, which was what I always thought I wanted to do. And while it's still a huge part of my life and a part of my talent, when I came to Rowan University, I ended up at the place that if you had asked me if I would have come here in high school, I would have said you were crazy. But it was home. And from the second I stepped here, I found where I was supposed to be. And I competed to become Miss New Jersey 6 times, so it was quite a long road. But the biggest lesson that I learned was that sitting at home and obsessing about if I would ever become Miss New Jersey was just a waste of precious time. When I got to Rowan, the faculty really encouraged me, balance your life. You can be Miss Broadcast Journalist and still try to be Miss New Jersey. I really fell in love with all those other areas of my life, which in turn made me a better candidate for the job of Miss New Jersey, accepting the fact that I may never be Miss New Jersey, but I'm going to go out swinging, being exactly who I'm supposed to be. And I truly feel that that acceptance and that peace and my time here was really a huge part of it all coming to fruition in the end.
Terrific. Well, I commend you on your
Thank you.
on persevering on that goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Katie, we're going to move on to you now. If you could tell us a little bit about the project that we've embarked on here at Rowan University with the Miss America organization, that would be wonderful. And then if you can also talk about how, as a professor of history and American studies, why this archive is historically important.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we are digitizing the materials. So Rowan will not own the materials that are collected in there. We're simply making images of all of them to preserve, the image of them and to preserve them in that way. This is fantastic. As we, learned last year, people can't go places all the time. So focusing on a digital archive is really a great move for the future because it's accessible to people all around the world, to people who, scholars who can't travel to do their work, to people at home, to people with disabilities, to, a lot of other populations are better served by a digital archive. So we're really happy about that part of it. Why Miss America? So this has been an annual event since 1921, and later a nationally televised event. On a basic level, this is just a very important piece of New Jersey history in terms of its origins as a way to promote the boardwalk and to keep people coming to the boardwalk for one additional weekend in the summer, and an important piece of national history. This was a shared experience for so many years. More so in the past when people watched TV, everyone watched the same event, together, which maybe doesn't happen quite as much today for anything. And it's also a fantastic record of the changes in American culture. The competition has so many different social, cultural, and political meanings, even meanings, as we've alluded to here, that may seem in opposition to each other. So, it's a competition that has asked women to compete with each other and be judged at least partly on appearance. But it's also a heavily woman-led and organized event and has almost always been so. Women have chosen to participate on so many levels as candidates, I had competitors, as candidates, as volunteers, staff, and viewers. And, those women, that's a legitimate choice for all these women, right? This variety of choices, as Alyssa shows a great example here. And it's an institution that historically correlated beauty and respectability with whiteness for a long time, but it evolved in response to the civil rights movement. It evolved in response to the famous 1968 feminist protest on the Atlantic City Boardwalk, at which no bras were burned. That's a myth that is picked up, but so that protest in itself, as part of the culture, shaped the organization going forward. Americans don't always agree on things. We disagree on a lot of things, but we don't have to agree with the past in order to make it important. And there's a lot to certainly agree with and approve of for Miss America, and the rest of it is still part of our history, and it's really important to know that and to be accurate about the history and understand what it's meant for so many different Americans. It's material here for business history, television history, art history, of course, women's history, cultural history, so many different subfields.
Wonderful, thank you. I'm going to ask you if you can just talk a little bit more about the project, and if you could tell us how the digitization works, and also talk about the role of students and faculty in this project. What is the role? What is the role of the students now, and how can additional students and faculty get involved in the project here at Rowan?
Sure. So the process is extremely simple. Everything that can fit on a scanner, we put it on a scanner and we scan it. That's all that's going on right now. We have a more complicated problem to digitize the portraits, the beautiful portraits that you see on easels. So those have to be specially photographed with particular kinds of equipment. We're thinking in the future about other kinds of equipment that we can use to take those kind of 360 photos that you see sometimes. So there's a lot of places that we can go, but even just with the equipment that we have right now, we're preserving the photographs and the documents. And this is all the digitization. When I say these things are being done, they're all being done by student workers. So we've had a tremendous group of student workers last year, over the summer, and this year, and they are fantastic. They're so interested in it. They work really hard, and so other Rowan students can apply to work to be a volunteer on this, to do an internship possibly. We only have room for 2 or 3 people at a time right now, but we're hoping that will increase. Faculty can 100% get involved in this by bringing students to the Digital Scholarship Center at the library to make an appointment to see these artifacts. You could bring your class here. You could learn about the process. You could do a unit based on all this material that we have. Use the collection for student research, for faculty research. You can help me write grants for external funding, which I am working on. So I welcome ideas and suggestions along those lines. There's so much, so many different populations, I think, that are interested in this. Older people who remember it, people who are interested in women's history, people who are interested in the history of, racial conflict and evolution. All of those people can find fashion history, There's so much that you can find in these archives that I really encourage people to reach out and ask about how to study with it and how to help us grow it.
Thank you. And in addition to the president, the provost here, Tony Lohman, has been a very big supporter of this project, and so we want to thank him for that as well. The next question is for you, Shantel. In your capacity as the chairperson of the Miss America organization, why do you think that digitizing old Miss America documents and memorabilia is of importance?
Well, I think Kate did such a great job explaining the process of it. Number one, I think that's the reality is that how should we preserve this history, especially the specific items, as she has stated, whether it be the portraits, whether it be the actual documents and paperwork from the 1930s and 20s. I mean, just think about all of this is sitting in file cabinets and storage units, and it hasn't been preserved appropriately. So that's first and foremost the most important reason, I think. But second of all is everything that Kate has touched on is that now it's going to be a library accessible to the public to be able to look back on all those things, whether it be political history, racial history, whether it be events going on in America and women's advancements, whether it be in education, scholarships, attending college, all of these things, their career paths, what changed over the course of the years as far as types of careers, types of educational paths that they went into, that's all evolved greatly. So when you look at what we're doing here is we're truly preserving history, but not only that is making it accessible, and I think that's most important too. And why should it sit in a storage unit? And also just in case, what if happens? Now, obviously they're preserved in appropriate temperature controlled areas. However, you just want to make sure the what if occurs. And of course, we still have that controlled lock and key and preserved appropriately in the actual physical location. But let everyone else access this, the general public. So when this is a completed project, that everyone can see these notes, these documents, and these pictures. I mean, you'll be shocked. Don't just look at the actual tangible items, but those documents and what they say speak volumes of when these candidates back in the 30s applied and what they responded for questions and how they got there. I mean, receipts from California to get to Atlantic City through the Panama Canal. I mean, that's a perfect example. Now think about transportation alone. Those are all documents that we recognize is a part of history that we would never have thought of how people even got to the pageant back then, so to speak. And now, of course, we call it a competition.
I agree. It is fascinating.
If I could jump
Please.
in on that for a second. So Shantel reminded me that, the things that you see today are the pretty and beautiful and interesting things in the photographs and the merchandising things, which I love. But for historians, we love the really boring documents. We're like, oh, is correspondence? Is this business records? Is this a record of all the advertisers who advertised with the Miss America pageant in 1938? Yes, please. So even the less sexy documents are really more interesting from a historical point of view.
Well, I would have to agree. And when we were at the storage units, I know that the Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, who of course is the college that you're in, Kate, Noel Amar and I were looking at very different documents than you were looking at. Actually, we weren't looking at documents. We were looking at the crowns and the specters and the Halloween costumes from 1970 when I was growing up. So it was really fascinating. So with that, Kate, can you tell us what you find most interesting about the collection? You've talked a lot about it, but is there a favorite piece?
Actually, I have something written about my favorite piece, and then I actually found something this afternoon, which is a really runner-up interesting thing. I did put up a document that is I was just telling someone about this, I can't remember what year now, early 60s, a candidate, the winner actually, Miss America, a letter to the national organization warning them that some guy is trying to find out where she is, he's representing himself as media and he's not in the media and he's just some creepy guy. So don't give this guy any information. So, the kind of challenges that women face are not new in that regard, and that was such a great document from the early 60s. My official favorite piece is the costume from 1972. So there's three out there. And there's one that's really the old school type that I remember from my own childhood in the 80s, where it's just a plastic mask and then, a sheet sort of thing that goes over you. And the costume is of a, Miss America, a beauty queen. So even though in the 70s the competition was really becoming much more diverse and there was a lot more, women in the field, the image is the very blonde, feathered hair, eyelashes, lips. It actually makes me think of Courtney Love on the Hole album from my later childhood in the 90s. And it reminded me of this sort of dark reverse mirror image of the beauty queen or the pageant winner, that began with movies like Carrie in 1976. she's prom queen, right? She's not a pageant queen. And I think that's maybe why we find this costume scary now. And it's fascinating to me that, just as we have this cultural record of the competition of beautiful women and striving and educated and accomplished and all that, at some point in the 70s, we also said, oh, that's also possibly a scary image if it's turned around. And these cultural meanings are not under the control of Miss America organization. This is nothing that anyone there did say, hey, let's make a horror movie about this. But these ideas get out in the culture and they become larger than any particular institution. And that's precisely why this material is so important, because we have these original documents from this institution to understand that helps us better understand everywhere these ideas are going in culture.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about looking forward. As I said, it is the 100th anniversary of the Miss America organization and this competition. And again, we're excited to be a part of it. So we've talked now about the project, so let's talk about the future of Miss America now, Shantel. How do you see the future of Miss America evolving to empower women? I know that you're working hard to bring new awareness to the competition. If you could talk a little bit about where you see the next 100 years, I think the audience would greatly appreciate that.
Sure, Joanne, thank you. And, Kate did touch on a little bit is, through the years, of course, we're the first ones to be a televised live audience. We were first for many things. And I think Miss America will continue to be the first in many ways in respect in whether it be issues or trends or education paths and careers, things that women do outside the box. I think that's where we, will always head. That word disruptor has always kind of been overused these last couple of years, but Miss America 1921 was a disruptor when they were wearing swimsuits on the boardwalk, and now we can say almost 100 years later, we have completely eliminated the swimsuit competition, and we've entirely eliminated any physical appearance judging. 100% eliminated it. So for all of you listening today, we no longer judge on the physical beauty of a candidate. In no way, shape, or form does our judging criteria say that. What we're looking for is your talent competition, your skills and abilities to entertain that audience. We're looking at your social impact initiative and how you have made a better America, or how have you impacted your local community or your state. What have you done so far, and how are you going to take that on the next level? What we're looking for in a Miss America is someone that's going to take this job and become a full-time marketer, so to speak, of her platform that she's chosen to advocate for. We're looking for somebody that can put together a business plan and tell us what her measurable results are going to be from 1 year. That's where Miss America continues to go. This last year, two of my projects that I wanted to initiate as the interim CEO is, number one, this archival project and getting these documents and this information on record. But the second area is an outreach to our candidates and helping them with professional development skills. Now, we've always done that because what we do in the interview competition alone, when you get yourself in front of a panel of judges in 10 minutes and they're asking you everything from current events to the G26 summit, that's truly preparing you for a job interview. Most candidates that walk away from this Miss America job interview aces every other regular job interview. Most employers are blown away when a candidate walks out of that room because she's so prepared for interviews, because that's what she's been preparing for. But we want to take that one step further. I said I'd love to create professional development series. And so during the pandemic year off from the competition, we held monthly professional development series, whether it be on how to fundraise, how to write a business plan, social media ideas. Those are all, I feel, assets that we should bring to our candidates and provide for them for their future. And we opened it up to any candidate. It wasn't just our title holders and winners, it was local title holders or anybody. I would like to expand that even further to our general public. So to say, maybe you competed 20 years ago in the Miss America program. We would love to invite you to be a part of the professional development series, because we have a lot of great resources and key opinion leaders that can provide information to better ourselves and advance ourselves professionally. So professional development series, I also think that we should be somewhat of a recruiting arm. How can we help candidates get jobs? How can we be a resource for employers in matching up with our great candidates? Every single young lady that competes, or how many thousands of young ladies that compete every year, they're probably some of the best job applicants any employer would desire. So let's make that a resource and something that I'm working on. And of course, it's not easy to develop, but it truly is a recruiting opportunity, and we got to build out a system to do it. But I foresee that something in the future that we're going to be a resource. Now, going into it long term is we'll always continue to push the envelope when it comes to our social impact initiatives, and whatever we call it. It was platform statements in the 90s. Today, it's our social impact initiatives. It's going to be, look at the companies that get behind social causes, whether it be, like Kate says, the Dove advertisements. Look at the advertisements on TV. They're very heartwarming and they're very meaningful and powerful. So that's where our women is also making those same impacts, is pushing and leaning hard into that to show that these women are just not this attractive face, as Alyssa would have said, in what she encountered at the grocery store, but much more than that. And so I encourage all of you to tell your friends and family to tune in this year, because you're going to see some pretty tough competitions. These social impact pitches that they're going to be doing, or it kind of looks like a TED Talk. I challenge anyone that's on the TED Talk circuit right now to be able to compete with what you're going to hear on national television. So, Joanne, we look forward to Rowan help us preserve this, but also leading us into the future as well by being resources in the digital world. And that's just a step in the right beginning and for the next 100 years.
Fantastic. Well, we all need to tune in on December 16th for sure. That sounds very exciting, Shantel. Thank you so much. We have one final question that, of course, I want to send to our Rowan University alumna here, and that is for you, obviously, Miss New Jersey, Alyssa Sullivan. With all of your success, what advice would you give to Rowan University students?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to them is that it's okay to have change. It's okay that your plan takes a wrong turn down a dark road. Embrace the idea that we plan, we fall down, we get back up again. Being at Rowan University was some of the most formative years of my entire life. And as I said, I always grew up as someone who had a perfect plan. And this was where I figured out exactly who I was. Even if you are not a young woman who could compete in the Miss America organization, if you're a young man, embrace the journey, because that's what makes it all worth it. And when I talk to people about becoming Miss New Jersey, the moment that they announced my name, it was surreal. I mean, the moment still gives me chills, but it's all those times that I walked away not becoming Miss New Jersey, that the doors slammed in my face, that people told me no. That's where I grew as a person. And even if it's not in the competition world, just as a student, in everything that we encounter here, it's not easy, and college is a very formative process. And like I said, I owe so much of who I am to Rowan, so I would encourage them to take risks, try new things, and watch yourself blossom and grow into someone that you may not even recognize in the very, very best of ways. And I didn't get to touch on it earlier, but many people don't know that Miss America is one of the largest scholarship providers for women in the country. And so that really throws people for a loop when they find out that this is so much so helping us to further our education. When I was first runner-up to Miss New Jersey, it paid off my entire senior year at Rowan University. There are women who never even make it to the Miss America stage or their state stage, but graduate debt-free from their college or university, and there's something to be said about that, and the fact that we don't ever have to choose between being educated, being intelligent, and making a difference.
Well said.
Thank you.
Again, I crown you Miss America. And we here at Rowan are proud to participate in that scholarship program as well, because we recognize how incredible the competitors are who are competing for this job of Miss America. And so thank you, all three of you, for being here on the panel tonight. We're going to move to the Q&A now. So if there's anyone who is here in the audience with us who would like to ask a question, we welcome you to come up to the mic on the side of the room here. And again, if you would like to ask a question through the chat, you're welcome to do that as well. We have someone here who will read them to our panelists.
All right. Shantel, specifically, going into our next 100 years, what qualities for the next Miss America are you still looking to preserve from the past 100 years moving forward?
I think we can all agree it's grace, elegance, it's ability to adapt, it's flexibility, it's being able to speak and think quickly on your feet, it's being able to smile through those ungraceful times or difficult moments that you're presented with as a woman. It doesn't matter if you're competing in the system or not. We've all encountered those situations, and how do you handle that is exactly the kind of woman that we want to be as role models, and encourage our candidates to be as role models for young ladies, whether it be they're 2 years old, 5 years old, or 12 years old. That's, I think, a good statement for us as grandmas, as aunts, as moms, as, candidates. That's what we really look for as a strong woman in society, is to be able to do all of those things. And then some, besides our education and our careers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a question online? Dina Mar?
We have a number of questions, so I'm just gonna, most of the questions we have is about, can you understand me? Okay, good. Is about the digitization, and will Miss America make things available online? Or, so there are a few things that have not, that are on YouTube, but will the digitized stuff be allowed to go online?
Sure. Kate, if you want to explain to them how we're going to do that as far as the access to the information. I know we've talked about this, but Kate can give us a little bit better picture so they understand. When she asked the question, she might have thought directed to the Miss America organization, but I want to clarify that this is why that we have this partnership for this wonderful university that has the expertise in this area. So Kate, give them the behind the scenes detail from that IT side of it.
That's also not my area of expertise. We're all just going to nod it on this. The scanning of the documents that I mentioned before is actually only the first step in creating a digital online archive. After you scan the documents, you need to enter the metadata, right? You need to put an identifier on that document to say what it is, and also how it's connected, in its place in the archive, and its place in relation to other items. So entering the metadata is a step that we need to, work on moving into. Again, I'm looking for funding for this, and that's really a bigger part of the project in a way, because scanning is quick. Entering the metadata requires knowledge of the collection. We need to figure out what is in the collection. The storage units are, as Shantel mentioned, very large and extensive and full, and we are not 100% sure what is in them. So there's a certain amount of exploration that needs to be done there. Our goal would be eventually to create a finding aid for the collection, which traditionally a paper document that tells people everything that's in an archive, but will also help us create the online archive. So the goal in the future is, yes, these things will be available online. Possibly not all of the material will be equally available to the public, that some of it will be more for scholars to use. There's some sensitive information in it. There's there's the judging records, which I'm not sure we're going to be part of the collection. There's contestant questionnaires. There's personal information. There's a name and an address for every woman who's ever, been involved in this competition. So we don't want to put all that online necessarily. So there's a lot of questions that still have to be resolved on this. We've really just begun to work on it. But the TLDR on that is, yes, eventually a lot of things will be available to the public.
Kate, can you talk about
on to that of what Kate had said is that this is a long-term process. So for all of you wanting this information tomorrow, it's not going to happen. I mean, you've already heard we've already gotten a year into this, and we figure it's going to be another 3 years because of the depth and breadth of the information. And you just heard how extensive it's going to take to really do this project. So that's why we started on this now, because we know it's going to take this long. But when eventually it is available, that's the partnership is between the Miss America organization and Rowan. And so collectively together, our websites would hopefully be able to support those documents publicly and available, whether it be, a limited, I don't want to say limited, but as Kate shared, there are some personal identifying information, PII information that, just can't be out there. So we're very cautious on all of that and very respectful to what this is. It's not just putting information out there. We got to be very diligent and judicious with it as well.
Agreed. But we're so glad that this is happening, and really it is important, and it will be wonderful when it can be shared with the world. And so it truly is an astounding project that we're proud to be a part of. Any other questions in the room here? I'm sorry.
Hi.
Please.
Hi. Regarding the archival project, over the past year, what has been the most interesting thing that has been learned given what's the most interesting thing that has been learned so far in terms of what the documents and artifacts you've been able to review during this period?
So a lot of people know a lot more about Miss America than I do. Let's just put that out there. Since last winter, I've been starting to read some of the scholarship. There's a lot of recent scholarship on Miss America from a lot of different sources. I believe Lenore Slaughter's papers are in, are they in the Smithsonian, I think? Lenore Slaughter was the director of the competition for a really long time in the 20th century, from, I want to say, the 40s to the mid-30s to the 60s or 70s. And I think her papers are elsewhere, so people have been able to use those for scholarship. So there are a lot of things that are new to me that I'm learning, but I don't know that they're new to, there's thousands of people who are deeply invested in this organization, who know a lot about it. This is an organization with a long history of active volunteers. The volunteers are really most of the organization, and they're extremely invested as stakeholders in this. So that's another, kind of part of the story, is that this has happened not just we have the records of the Miss America organization. We don't have necessarily the records of all the state, competitions, and this happens in every state. Early on, it's cities as well. So there's a picture out there from 1921 of Miss Pittsburgh. But so each state has its own history of competition. It has its own history of all the volunteers who were involved in putting on the event, in shepherding the candidates around them, chaperones, who are in chaperoning the candidates, which is its own fantastically interesting story. So I have learned a lot about it. I don't know that it's new to anyone else yet, but that's what we're putting it out there for.
And I think, Kate, one other item that I found really rewarding when you've been sharing with me on the updates when we have our phone calls and get us up to date on where you're at with materials and projects is to answer the gentleman. One of the areas that I thought was really profound was the students that are working on this project had a deep change in their heart on the perception of this so-called pageant. Mm-hmm. That's what we hear everybody say. And we're trying to change. So everybody remove that word from your vocabulary right now. It's not a pageant, it's a competition. They're competing for a job. It's not pageantry. It's truly a job and a competition. These young ladies compete just like you see other competitive reality TV shows, but they're competing for a job and they're competing for a mission. So I thought it was interesting to hear from the students saying, wow, I've learned so much about history. I've learned so much about the changes of what the women faced for challenges. And I've really learned a lot about this organization that I have a whole new appreciation, profound appreciation for the volunteers. As Kate said, we have hundreds of thousands of volunteers over the years, literally, that have given to this organization. It's truly run by volunteers. I, as the interim CEO, I am a volunteer. I'm in a volunteer role. So it's something that I think people don't realize, the passion, but it's because the rewards of what they see come out of this program and the young ladies that are competing and how they develop and grow personally and professionally. So it was great to hear, it was rewarding for me to hear that the students had seen the changes in what they see in as far as this program, but then also all the things in history that they got to read while they were doing a fun project. And that was very rewarding for me.
Absolutely. And if I can jump back in on it, because while you were talking, Shantel, I was remembering something that I really enjoy seeing is that so there's been 100 winners, more or less. There was a couple years in the 20s when the competition stopped for a few years, so not quite 100. But all of these women, the organization keeps scrapbooks, a lot of them, on sort of where they're going in life and what they do after their winning year, and it's such a diversity. There's a bit of a conflict in the earlier years, especially between this idea that Shantel is saying of it's just a pageant, it's a beauty pageant, it's a girly show, right? That was present at the beginning. It's certainly, how do you get people to show up at an event? You have pretty girls. This is not a new idea. And so there's a big tension, and Lenore Slaughter is a big part of this in the 40s of creating the scholarship program, of moving to this idea that is, described now of the winner is a woman who's accomplished in a lot of different ways, right? She's active in a career, she's well-educated, she's all these things. And that tension you can see in the history of the winners over the years. So some of them, especially as you'd imagine in the 1950s and 60s, they are very domestic. They say, oh, when I'm done winning, I'm going to be Mrs. So-and-so, and I'm never going to, appear in public again, and I'm just going to be committed to my family, right? Others parlay this into, film careers, and, almost like someone today trying to be, TikTok famous, right? This is your chance to get exposure. It's parlaying it into success in that way. Others move into business. Others become gay divorcees, and there's, they've got 5 husbands, and there's, sort of some drama there. So the variety of things that women have done after their reign, I think is probably, that's to me what I didn't realize would be so interesting, and that's proven really interesting.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if I have time for another follow-up question.
Please.
It's totally unrelated, but I think it's interesting. I'm wondering if Alyssa can tell us how your experience in the Miss America organization has helped you in your career as a journalist.
It has helped me so much. I think just as we talk about stereotypes, people often think when I tell them that I decided to go into TV that, I'm used to being on stage, so it seems synonymous. All you do is want to look pretty and stand in front of a camera. But the thing that I loved and that Rowan taught me was that this is so far from just holding a microphone in your hand. The intellect that comes, the ability that you need to be able to not just stay up on what's going on in the world, but to be able to also keep your opinions aside, to be able to carry those news values and those ethics with you every single day. I mean, there's a whole issue in and of itself with the way that people view the news and the media world, the fact that people think that the whole field has kind of lost itself. And so one of my goals, not just as Miss New Jersey, but as a person, is to educate the future generation of newscasters, to show them that we still can thrive, that we still can sort of bring some power and some recognition back to our field. So absolutely, sometimes when I go on location, people do their research on me to try to, see if I'm a real person after we've communicated, and they say, "You're Miss New Jersey," and we laugh, because I'm not one to wear that on my sleeve all the time. Again, we all wear so many hats. I'm always so proud to say that I am Miss New Jersey, but the idea that, like Shantel and the organization encourages us to accept, is that there are so many parts of us. First and foremost, we are Alyssa Sullivan, Miss New Jersey 2021. That is who we are and who we will always be. And that has been one of the most profound changes that I've loved to see in the last few years that I've been a part of it, that we no longer have to feel that we need to keep all of our personal ambitions and successes and accomplishments aside, that world can really come together, and it really can help us be better people and bring more notoriety and good things to the Miss America organization as well.
And I applaud you for your willingness to give back. Just a little story about how Alyssa and I connected. We at Rowan University were connected to the Miss America organization through this project, and even before that, through one of their vice presidents, Mark Angeli, who's here with us tonight. And again, very grateful for that connection. But Alyssa and I happened to be sitting next to each other at the salon getting our nails done.
That's how this event came to fruition.
Right. Well, I mean, that's how the world works, right?
Yeah.
And so I said to her, "I think I know who you are." And when we got to talking, I said, "I work at Rowan University." She said, "I went to Rowan University." And I said, "Oh my goodness, this is wonderful." And she said, "Can you help me? I really would like to connect with the students at Rowan. How can I get involved with the university?" So it speaks to the spirit of the Miss America competition, the job that you're competing for, to giving back, and so we commend you for that.
Thank you.
So we're going to stop here. I think that that's a good place to stop. I want to, again, thank everybody for attending tonight, and of course I want to thank all of our panelists for a wonderful job. Thank you so much, everybody. I also want to take a moment to thank Sarah Freeman and Linda DeGennaro from University Events and their entire team for a great job, as well as Gourmet Dining, who is a fantastic partner here at Rowan. And I want to remind everybody that we have the artifacts that we've been discussing. Some of them are here on display. There are thousands and thousands more, but this gives you a flavor for what we had the pleasure to visit these storage units and see. I also want to mention Rob Hilliker, who's here from our Campbell Library and who joined us on that visit, which was so fascinating and was the kickoff to this entire project. And so please enjoy the artifacts that are here. For those of you who are attending virtually, enjoy them online. And again, make sure you watch the Miss America competition on December 16th, and good luck to you, Alyssa.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Have a great night.